Thank you. Thank you. So this is where we get a little bit more bizarre, but not really bizarre, only the area beyond what people normally talk about in terms of this conspiracy. There's people all over the world now who are researching this and communicating it, and, you know, great stuff. But if you are limited by a belief system, particularly a religious belief system, and many researchers of this conspiracy come from that background, then you'll go so far, which is about as far as we've come today so far, but you won't go into this next bit. And for me, this next bit is where we need to go to find the way out of this. Because unless we know how we're creating it, then how do we know how to uncreate it? Because the answers are not out there, because there is no out there. So I'm going to now go into the realms of how we create reality, and therefore how it can be manipulated, and understanding that. And that's why I call this now the really important bit, because this is where all the strands from earlier in the day start to come together, and we can start to see a way out of this, and also understand much more profoundly why society is structured as it is. It all starts to make sense once we realize the nature of reality, and the fact that beyond the Bushes and the Blairs and the shadowy core, this knowledge, which has been passed on through the thousands of years, is the knowledge that they use to manipulate our sense of reality, while we understand very little about what's actually going on. Our thoughts are not necessarily our thoughts, but implanted thoughts. So seeing is believing. But actually the truth is, believing is seeing. And that's a massive truth that moves us forward. What is reality? Reality is an illusion. The only place this world exists is in our heads, and even our head, if you go on to another level, is an illusion. We are consciousness. We are infinite consciousness. This quote from Goebbels about vitally important to repress dissent, because the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie. Now we're entering the area of the biggest lie and the most important lie in terms of the few controlling the many indefinitely. And when we realize the nature of the lie, we can then take control of our lives back, collectively and individually. We are not this body. I'll get more into that as we go along. We are consciousness. We are consciousness that is connected to an ocean of consciousness we call infinity. We can perceive life as a droplet in an ocean. Oh, I'm just little me. Oh, what power have I got? You know, I was born in Leicester, I was, and I went to school, and now I've got a job, and I'm a droplet. But you can perceive that, and you will create a reality that reflects the way you see reality. The perceived reality becomes the experienced reality. But if you perceive yourself not as a droplet, but what happens when you put a droplet in the ocean, there is no point where the droplet ends and the ocean starts. The droplet is the ocean is the droplet. We're all one infinite consciousness. Now, when we perceive life from that point of view, the last thing we think of is we are powerless. Is that we have to look outside of ourselves to be told what to think. And so the whole conspiracy at its really profound foundation level is to hold us in a bubble in which we are operating on a fraction of who we are, and they use the physical body, again I'll come into this in more detail, to be the block on us being multidimensional infinite consciousness that cannot be manipulated. We are energy, awareness. People call it consciousness. My favorite word is awareness. We're awareness. And, you know, these can be photographed. We call them auras, but that's just one level of our infinite energy field. And we are not the body. The consciousness works through the body, which is nothing more than a biological computer, fantastic as it is. And when we leave the physical body, even every form of life, that's a fingertip. This is a plant, energy, life force. Everything has the life force. And when that's withdrawn, or withdraws, then the physical side of it, which is a biological computer, disappears. What the Illuminati want to do and have structured society to do is to make us identify who we are with the computer. I'm David Icke. I was born in Leicester in 1952. No, that's the experience I'm having. I am infinite consciousness. There are very different perceptions of reality. This thinks it's small and insignificant. This knows that it's everything, like we all are. But if you can be held in the perception of the physical body, the computer level, then you can be controlled very easily. Now, I had an experience over the last week. My mother died. She was in her 80s, and I went up for the funeral, and I was asked if I wanted to go and see my mother in the coffin. Now, I would have said no. I want to remember her as she is, but something said to me, go, go, go. So I went, and there was my mother in this coffin, and next to her was a massive blown-up picture of her with a big smile on her face, sparkle in the eyes. And I looked at my mother in the coffin, and I looked at the picture. That had no life. That was full of life. That was my mother. That was the computer with my mother gone. And the difference between the two was so profoundly obvious. Because when we take a photograph of someone, the photograph also picks up these unseen levels of consciousness. The sparkle in the eye, the warmth, the vibration coming off you. It picks that up. And that life that was in that picture, what was in my mother for 80-odd years, was that part of her that withdrew. And I'm glad it did, because that computer was causing her endless pain and misery. That withdrew and is now back in the land of forever, the land of consciousness beyond human sight, for reasons I'll come to. And this is how we have been misled on purpose, so that we perceive who we are and who others are with a physical form, when that's not what they are at all. Do we perceive people on the moon in spacesuits as being spacesuits? No, we perceive them as what is in the spacesuit. That is the difference between the two. And my mother is still alive, because she cannot be anything but alive, because she is infinite consciousness that cannot be destroyed. Now, this is a symbolic picture. There are now endless accounts all over the world of people who've had what we call out-of-body experiences, where they leave the body when the body physically dies, and they're looking down on their body, and when they're revived, they can tell the doctors and the nurses what they were doing and saying when they were apparently dead. They also talk about going through a tunnel and seeing people who've gone before. Now, what is another common theme of near-death experiences is people say when they've left the body and they are looking and perceiving this world from another perspective, they have massively expanded consciousness, so much so that they can perceive their entire physical lifetime in almost one thought. We're perceiving it in a series of thoughts going through what we call time. They're just perceiving it all in one thought, something that they couldn't even conceive doing when they were in the physical body. And what this physical body does is it limits the vision and perspective of consciousness. And we start to identify who we are with this physical world and with this physical body. Now, if you control the information that this level of us is implanted with from cradle to grave, then if consciousness starts to identify with the physical body as who it is, and disconnects its perception of being interdimensional and infinite, then it's going to get its information to get a fix on who it is and what's happening in the world through this information. It's not going to get it from out here through intuition, through knowing. It's going to get it from here.